The thunder cracked like a gunshot outside the thin motel window, shaking the entire room and rattling the cheap lamp on the nightstand. I jolted awake, heart pounding, only to realize Nicholas was already up, his silhouette frozen in the dim glow of his phone screen, staring at me with eyes wide as the storm's fury. "Matt," he whispered, voice breaking like the sky outside. "I think I just ruined everything, because I've been lying to you for years." That single sentence hung in the air heavier than the rain lashing the roof, pulling me under like the floodwaters rising in the streets below. We'd driven cross-country from Seattle to Chicago, chasing ghosts of our college days, but this godforsaken motel in rural Ohio, our last stop before the Windy City, was supposed to be just another pit stop, not the night my world cracked open. I sat up on the lumpy queen bed we were forced to share, the storm having flooded the highways and stranded every other room in this Fleabag joint. Nicholas, my best friend since freshman orientation at the University of Washington. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that perpetual 5 o'clock shadow and eyes the color of Pacific fog. Looked smaller than I'd ever seen him, knees drawn up to his chest on the edge of the mattress, phone clutched like a lifeline. The screen's blue light carved shadows across his face, making him seem both familiar and a stranger all at once. "What do you mean, lying?" My voice came out rougher than intended, scraped raw from the exhaustion of the drive and the unspoken weight I'd carried for a decade. We'd been through hell together. His parents' divorce when we were kids, my coming out in a dorm room reeking of cheap beer and regret, the way he'd stood by me when my own family turned their backs like I was yesterday's news. Nicholas had always been my anchor, the straight-arrow jock who punched a bully in the jaw for calling me a slur, who crashed on my couch after his girlfriend dumped him senior year. Straight. That's what I'd told myself he was, because admitting anything else would have shattered the fragile peace we'd built. He swallowed hard, the storm's rumble underscoring the silence like a dramatic underscore in one of those indie films we binged on lazy Sundays. "Remember that night in Portland? After the Huskies game, when we got blackout drunk at that dive bar?" His words tumbled out, hesitant at first, then gaining speed like the wind whipping the motel sign outside. Portland 3 years ago. A road trip detour that turned into a blur of neon lights and too many shots of whiskey. I'd woken up with his arms slung over my waist, our legs tangled under the sheets, and chalked it up to brotherly affection, the kind that straight guys deny but lean into anyway. I nodded, pulse quickening. The memory was etched in me. The warmth of his breath on my neck, the way he'd mumbled something incoherent that sounded like my name, not hers, his ex, the one who cheated on him with half the frat house. "I didn't tell you what happened after you passed out." Nicholas's gaze dropped to his hands, fingers twisting the hem of his faded Mariners hoodie, the one I'd bought him as a joke after our first heartbreak over the playoffs. "I kissed you, Matt. Not like a bro thing. Like, really kissed you." And then I panicked, bolted to the bathroom, and puked my guts out. Told myself it was the booze, that it didn't mean shit. But it did. It meant everything. The room spun, or maybe that was just the vertigo of revelation hitting me square in the chest. Outside, lightning forked across the sky, illuminating the peeling wallpaper and the faded, "No smoking" sign tacked crookedly above the door. We'd checked in at midnight, the clerk, a grizzled vet with a name tag reading Earl, chuckling about the big one, barreling through the Midwest, the kind that turned interstates into rivers and motels into arcs. Every other room was booked solid, families and truckers huddled in hallways. So here we were, 2 grown men, best friends on the cusp of 30, sharing a bed narrower than our secrets. "Why now?" I managed, shifting closer, the mattress dipping under my weight. The air between us crackled, not from static but from the charge of truths long buried. I'd loved him since that rainy Seattle afternoon when he dragged me to a coffee shop to fix my post, coming out funk, handing me a latte with extra foam and saying, "You're still you, idiot, and you're stuck with me." Love, not lust. The kind that bloomed in quiet moments, like when he'd drive me to therapy after my folks disowned me, blasting Springsteen to drown out the silence. But I'd buried it deep, convinced he'd never see me that way, not after dating every sorority girl with a pulse and swearing off complications after his last breakup. Nicholas laughed, a hollow sound swallowed by another thunderclap. Because this storm is like that night in Portland all over again. Trapped, no escape, and all I can think about is how I've been running from this. From us. For so long. He finally met my eyes, and in that fractured light, I saw the boy who'd confessed his fear of heights on our first hike up to Rattlesnake Ledge. The man who'd held my hand through my grandfather's funeral when no one else would. I thought I was straight, Matt. Or at least I convinced myself I was, because admitting otherwise, it'd mean appending everything. My family, my job coaching high school ball in Tacoma, the life I built to prove I'm not. Broken. Broken. The word sliced through me sharper than any slur ever had. My own scars ached in sympathy. The job I'd lost in San Francisco after a coworker outed me to HR, the parade of bad dates that left me hollow, the way I'd moved back to Seattle just to be near him, telling myself it was for friendship, not this desperate, unspoken ache. "You're not broken?" I said fiercely, reaching out to grip his forearm, feeling the corded muscle tense under my fingers. "Nicholas, if anyone's been lying, it's me. I've been in love with you since the day you threw that Hail Mary pass in intramurals and grinned at me like I was the only one who mattered." His breath hitched, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to the space between us. The faint scent of his cedar cologne mingling with rain-damp cotton, the way his chest rose and fell in sync with mine. Then he leaned in, tentative, his lips brushing my forehead in a gesture so tender it stole my air. Not a kiss, not yet, but a promise. The storm raged on, but inside that dingy room off I-70, something shifted, like the first crack in a dam holding back a river. We talked until the thunder softened to a grumble, unraveling years of half-truths under the flicker of that single bulb. He spoke of the guilt that gnawed at him after Portland, how he'd dated Emily, the bubbly barista who'd shattered his heart, not out of love, but to prove something to himself, to the world. "She was great," he admitted, voice laced with regret. "But every time we fought, I'd think of you, how you'd listen without judging, how you'd make me laugh even when I wanted to punch a wall." And I confessed the betrayal that had nearly broken me. Not his, but my ex-boyfriend in the Bay Area, who'd promised forever then ghosted me for a promotion in New York, leaving me to question if I was worth sticking around for. Dawn crept in gray and reluctant, painting the room in watery light. The highway was still underwater, Earl muttering about detours when we grabbed coffee from the motel's ancient percolator. But as we packed the Jeep, Nicholas's hand lingered on mine over the duffel bag, a silent vow. "Chicago can wait," he said, that fog-gray gaze steady. "We've got time now." Little did I know, time was the one thing we didn't have. Not with the shadows of our pasts lurking like storm clouds on the horizon. The drive to Chicago stretched into a 2-day crawl, the floodwaters receding just enough for us to snake along backroads lined with cornfields bowed under the weight of last night's deluge. Nicholas handled the wheel with that easy confidence I'd always envied. One hand loose on the gearshift, the other occasionally brushing mine where it rested on the console. Each touch sent a spark up my arm, a reminder that this us was no longer a fevered dream born of thunder and confession. We'd stopped at a diner in some podunk town called Millersburg, the kind of place where the pie came with a side of gossip and the waitress called everyone Han. Over greasy eggs and bottomless coffee, he stole glances at me, a shy smile tugging his lips, like he was testing the waters of this new reality. "You think they'll notice?" he asked suddenly. Fork paused midway to his mouth. The they hung unspoken. His coaching buddies back in Tacoma, the conservative alumni who funded the high school program, the family he'd shielded from his doubts with stories of tailgates and touchdowns. His dad, a retired steelworker from Pittsburgh who'd transplanted to the Pacific Northwest for mill jobs, had always preached man up as gospel, especially after the divorce left him bitter and alone. I shrugged, chasing a bite of hash browns with black coffee that tasted like regret. "Who cares if they do? You're still the guy who turns around losing seasons." But even as I said it, doubt coiled in my gut. I'd walked that tightrope before, coming out to my mom over Thanksgiving turkey, only for her to whisper prayers under her breath while Dad stared at his plate like it held the secrets to the universe. They lived in a suburb outside Philly now, post-retirement bliss in a cul-de-sac of cookie-cutter colonials. sending birthday cards with checks but no visits. The betrayal stung fresh in moments like this, a reminder that love could curdle into silence. Nicholas nodded, but his jaw tightened, that telltale flex of muscle when he was chewing on words too big to spit out. It's not just them. It's me, Matt. What if this us is just a phase? What if I wake up tomorrow and freak out? His honesty hit like the Midwest chill seeping through the diner's drafty windows, raw and unfiltered. We were both products of this vast American quilt. Me, the city kid from the East Coast who chased dreams to the West. Him, the heartland transplant clinging to sports as salvation. Gay in America wasn't a monolith. It was a mosaic of red states and blue cities, of pride parades in San Francisco clashing with quiet closets in small-town Ohio. Back on the road, the radio crackled with weather updates and classic rock. Bruce Springsteen crooning about highways and broken heroes. I watched Nicholas hum along, his profile etched against the endless flatlands, and felt a swell of something fierce and protective. We'd planned this trip as a reset. Me, burned out from freelance graphic design gigs that paid the bills but starved the soul. Him, reeling from a season where his team lost the championship by a field goal, the sting amplified by whispers from parents about soft coaching. Let's drive to Chicago, he'd proposed over beers at our favorite brew pub. Hit Wrigley, eat deep dish till we burst, pretend we're 20 again. I'd agreed, heart leaping at the proximity, steeling myself for the torture of unrequited pining. Now, with his confession echoing like the boss's gravelly tenor, the miles blurred into possibility. We pulled over at a rest stop near Toledo, the sun breaking through clouds and shafts of gold that turned the lake to molten silver. He killed the engine, turned to me with that earnest look that always undid me. Matt, about last night. His hand found mine, deliberate this time, thumb tracing circles on my knuckles. The kiss that followed was soft, exploratory. Lips meeting in the cab's confined space, tasting of diner coffee and tentative hope. No rush, no heat. Just the quiet affirmation of two men who'd waited too long to claim this. By evening, we rolled into the city proper, the skyline rising like a promise against the twilight. Our Airbnb was a cozy walk-up in Wicker Park, all exposed brick and vinyl records stacked by the turntable. Nicholas unpacked with boyish energy, pulling out the Cubs jersey he'd bought on a whim years ago, holding it up like a trophy. Game tomorrow, he declared. And you're buying the beers. I laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in months, and pulled him into a hug that lingered, his chin resting on my shoulder, heartbeat syncing with mine. That night, as fireworks popped over the lakefront in distant celebration, some corporate sponsor's wet dream, we lay on the rooftop deck, wrapped in a shared blanket against the autumn bite. He talked about his fears, the betrayal he'd inflicted on Emily, not by cheating, but by using her as a shield against his own confusion. I ghosted her after Portland, he admitted, voice muffled against my neck. Told her I needed space, but really, I was terrified she'd see right through me, and I shared my own scar. The ex in San Francisco, Alex, who'd sworn undying love in sun-dappled cafes, only to vanish when a job offer in Manhattan dangled stability. He said I was too messy for his new life. I whispered, the old wound throbbing. Like loving me was a liability. Nicholas pulled me closer, his breath warm on my ear. You're not messy, Matt. You're real. And I'm done running. The city hummed below us, a symphony of horns and laughter. The American dream in all its chaotic glory. For the first time, I believed we could carve out a piece of it. Together. But hope, like the Chicago wind, has a way of shifting directions. The next morning dawned crisp and clear, perfect for Wrigley Field. We navigated the L train like pros, Nicholas's arm slung casual around my shoulders to ward off the chill, drawing a few curious glances but no stares. Inside the friendly confines, the crack of bats and roar of the crowd enveloped us, a baptism in green ivy and seventh-inning stretches. He bought me a hot dog loaded with everything, ketchup dripping like victory, and we cheered as the Cubs scratched out a win against the Cards, the kind of gritty comeback that mirrored our own fragile truce. Post-game, buzzed on adrenaline and overpriced brews, we wandered Lincoln Avenue, ducking into a dive bar where a cover band mangled Springsteen covers. Nicholas leaned in close over the sticky table, his knee pressing mine under the wood. "This feels right," he murmured, and I nodded, throat tight with the weight of it all. It was there, amid the haze of cigarette smoke sneaking in from the alley, that my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hey Matt, it's Emily. Nicholas gave me your ages ago. In town for a conference. Coffee tomorrow? Need to talk about him." My stomach plummeted. Emily. The ghost from Portland. The one he'd sworn was ancient history. What the hell did she want now? I deleted it, but the seed of doubt took root, insidious as the ivy climbing Wrigley's walls. The coffee meetup with Emily was a mistake from the jump, but curiosity, or maybe masochism, drove me to the corner cafe on Michigan Avenue the next afternoon. Nicholas was at a solo errand, picking up tickets for the Art Institute, oblivious to the storm brewing in my pocket. The loop buzzed around me. Suits hustling to meetings, tourists snapping selfies with the bean. The eternal churn of a city that never sleeps. I spotted her at a window table, blonde waves cascading over a tailored blazer, looking every bit the polished marketer she'd become. Emily Hayes. The girl who'd captured Nicholas's heart, or at least his denial 3 years back, only to shatter it with a text that read like a Dear John from a bad rom-com. "Matt," she waved, all smiles and familiarity, sliding a latte my way as I sat. Up close, the polish cracked. Faint lines around her eyes from late nights, a tremor in her hand betraying nerves. "God, it's been forever. You look good. Seattle treating you okay?" We small-talked the weather, unseasonably warm for October, and the Cubs' playoff chances, but the air thickened with the unspoken. Finally, she leaned forward, elbows on the scarred oak table. "It's about Nick. I know you two are tight, always have been. That's why I'm coming to you." Her words tumbled out then, a confession wrapped in concern. How she'd run into him at an alumni mixer in Tacoma last spring. The awkward hug that lingered too long. The way he'd asked about me with a wistfulness that clawed at her. "He said you were the one constant in his life, Matt. Like soulmate-level stuff." But then he clammed up, changed the subject to football. I think he's scared. Of you. Of what you mean to him." My latte turned to ash in my mouth. Scared of me? After the motel, the kiss, the rooftop promises? But doubt whispered, "Of course he is. You're the complication he can't coach away." Emily's eyes softened, pleading. "I still care about him, you know? Not like before, we're friends now or trying to be. But I hate seeing him stuck. If he's, figuring things out, maybe you can help him face it. For both your sakes." Betrayal flickered. Not hers, but the echo of Nicholas's silences over the years. The times he'd pull back after a hug felt too charged, blaming fatigue or hangovers. I thanked her, mumbled something about talking to him, and fled into the pedestrian throng, the mag miles glitz blurring through unshed tears. America, land of the free. Free to love, sure, but also free to hide, to hurt, to half-step into truth only to retreat when the spotlight hits. I found Nicholas at the Airbnb, sprawled on the couch with a dog-eared copy of The Great Gatsby. His guilty pleasure, the one book that made him cry. He looked up, grin fading at my expression. "What's wrong? You look like you saw a ghost." We sat knee to knee on the threadbare rug, the room smelling of fresh basil from the corner market's takeout. I laid it out. The text, the coffee, Emily's words like shrapnel. His face drained of color, then flushed crimson. "She had no right," he started, but I cut him off. "Is it true? Are you scared of this, of us?" My voice cracked, raw as the windy city's winter winds. The vulnerability terrified me. I'd armored myself after Alex, after my family's frost, building walls of sarcasm and solitude. But Nicholas? He was the crack in that fortress, the one man who'd ever made me want to tear it down. He stood abruptly, pacing the narrow space between kitchenette and bed, hands raking through his hair. "God, Matt, it's not you. It's everything. Emily." She was safe, predictable. No one batted an eye at us together. "But you? You're the one who knows me, the real me." The guy who cries at Field of Dreams, who dreams about ditching coaching for something artistic, like writing sports poetry or whatever dumb shit I babble about after wine. He stopped, back to me, shoulders hunched like he carried the weight of the Rockies. Coming out? At 30? With Dad still sending me articles about traditional values? My team's got kids from every background, but the parents. They'd pull funding faster than you can say woke agenda. And what if I screw this up? Betray you like I did her, by not being brave enough. The word betray landed like a gut punch. I rose, closing the distance, hands on his arms to still the tremor. Then we face it together. No more running solos. Our foreheads touched, breaths mingling in the charged quiet. When he kissed me this time, it was deeper, a reclamation. Lips firm, hands cupping my face with a gentleness that belied his size. We sank to the couch, bodies aligning in unhurried exploration. Clothes a barrier we didn't breach, just the press of chest to chest, heartbeat to heartbeat, reaffirming what words couldn't. That night, we walked the lakefront, the city lights dancing on black water like scattered stars. He pointed out constellations he half remembered from Boy Scouts, voice steadying with each story. I shared fragments of my Philly childhood. Summers at the Jersey Shore, building sandcastles with my brother before he enlisted and never came home. Loss threaded us, a common humanity in this vast country of reinventions. America's about second chances, Nicholas said, arm around my waist as we turned back toward the L. Maybe this is ours. But second chances demand reckoning, and mine arrived via email the next morning. A job offer from a design firm in New York, 6 figures and creative freedom, the kind of break I'd chased since art school. It meant leaving Seattle, leaving him if he couldn't follow. I stared at the screen, hope warring with heartbreak, as Nicholas hummed in the shower, oblivious to the fork in our road. The days in Chicago blurred into a montage of urban romance. Lazy mornings over skylines, afternoons lost in the Institute's impressionist wing, where Monet's lilies mirrored the peace we'd found. Nicholas sketched bad caricatures of me on napkins, his laughter booming when I retaliated with stick-figure jabs at his coach face. We avoided the heavy talks, savoring the bubble, but Emily's words lingered like fog off the lake. One evening, as we prepped for a comedy show in Boys Town, his idea, a plunge into the neighborhood's rainbow heartbeat. He paused at the mirror, tie half nodded. You ever think about what comes next? After this trip? His reflection held mine, vulnerable in the halogen glow. All the time, I admitted, stepping behind to fix the knot, fingers brushing his collarbone. But right now, this is enough. The show was a riot, drag queens slaying routines that poked at politics and picket fences. The crowd a tapestry of queer joy that made my chest ache with belonging. Nicholas clapped loudest at a bit about closeted jocks, his hand finding mine in the dark theater, squeezing tight. Later, over late-night tacos from a truck parked crookedly on Halstead, he confessed, that was terrifying and amazing, like seeing myself on stage but funnier. We stumbled home tipsy and tangled, collapsing into bed with whispers and wandering hands, the line between affection and desire blurring but never crossing into urgency. It was intimacy reborn. The simple miracle of his head on my pillow, our legs entwined under worn sheets. Yet dawn brought the email's shadow. As Nicholas slept, I drafted a reply, stalling, promising to think it over. New York, the city of my ex's betrayal, of reinvention without roots. Or Seattle, safe, stagnant with him. The conflict clawed deeper than any storm. The Art Institute's halls echoed with our footsteps the next day, sunlight slanting through vaulted windows onto canvases that whispered of longing and loss. Nicholas gravitated to the American wing, lingering before Hopper's Nighthawks, the diner's fluorescent isolation mirroring his own quiet turmoil. That's us, isn't it? He murmured, hand slipping into mine amid the sparse crowd. Stuck in the glass, watching the world spin by. I squeezed back, throat tight. Hopper's figures always gutted me. Their solitude amid urban sprawl, a paean to the American ache for connection. We'd come here seeking beauty, but it unearthed fractures. My fear of abandonment, his dread of exposure. As we wandered to the moderns, pollock strips evoking chaos we'd both tamed, my phone vibrated. Another nudge from the New York firm, a follow-up call scheduled if I didn't respond by week's end. We lunched at the cafe overlooking Grant Park, skyline sharp against a cerulean sky. Nicholas demolished a turkey club with athletic gusto, oblivious to my distraction, regaling me with tales of a kid from his team, a shy freshman outed by a teammate's prank, now thriving under his wing. I told him it's okay to be you on and off the field, he said, pride softening his features. Wish someone had said that to me sooner. The irony twisted like a knife. Here he was, championing a boy's truth while hoarding his own, the betrayal not malice but inertia, the slow poison of societal scripts. You can still say it to yourself, I replied gently, fork tracing patterns in my salad. His smile faltered, then rallied. Working on it. With you. He reached across, thumb stroking my wrist, a public gesture small but seismic in its defiance. That afternoon, we rented bikes and pedaled the lakefront trail, wind whipping our laughter as gulls wheeled overhead. Chicago unfolded in vignettes. Couples picnicking on the grass, joggers pounding pavement, the distant hum of jets from O'Hare carrying dreams eastward. We stopped at a bench near the planetarium, sweat-slick and exhilarated, sharing a water bottle passed mouth to mouth in playful conspiracy. Marry me, he joked or half-joked, forehead to mine. We'll elope to Vegas, coach the Raiders' queer youth league. I laughed, but the fantasy lodged deep, a counterpoint to the email's siren call. Betrayal loomed in choices. Stay and risk stagnation, or go and gamble our nascent bond. Evening found us at a jazz club in the South Loop, sax notes curling like smoke through dim amber light. Nicholas swayed to the rhythm, less dancer than devotee, pulling me close in a slow grind that drew indulgent smiles from the bartender. Over bourbon neat, his nod to Hemingway, we delved deeper. His father's letters from the mill days, laced with machismo masking loneliness. My brother's dog tags, a talisman against the void of unexplained death. War took him, I said, voice low, but silence killed the rest of us. Vulnerability bonded us, humanistic threads in the American fabric. Flawed men weaving redemption from regret. Back at the Airbnb, rain pattered anew, a gentle reprise to Ohio's fury. We cooked pasta from pantry scraps, arguing over garlic portions like old times, then curled on the couch for Call Me By Your Name. His pick, an olive branch to the genre's tender ache. As Elio and Oliver tumbled through sun-drenched Idol, Nicholas's head on my lap, fingers idly combing his hair, tears pricked my eyes. Not for the film but for us. The what-ifs of lost summers, the courage it took to rewrite the script. I love you, he whispered during the credits, unprompted. The words a confession freer than the motel's thunderstruck plea. I pulled him up, kissing him slow and sure, bodies aligning in wordless dialogue. No further, just the eloquence of presence, the romance of restraint. But morning shattered the idyll. My phone rang at 7 a.m. The firm's creative director, voice polished as Park Avenue marble. Matthew, we're excited. Relocation package includes a Tribeca studio. Prime for your portfolio. Tribeca. Alex's old haunt, ghosts in every brownstone. I mumbled thanks, hung up, and stared at the ceiling as Nicholas stirred. Everything good? He mumbled, arm draping my waist. Yeah. I lied. The first crack in our glass diner. Betrayal began in omissions, and mine was blooming. We spent the day in denial. Millennium Park, splashing in Crown Fountain like kids. Then the Willis Towers glass ledge, Nicholas's acrophobia conquered with my hand in his. From that vertigo perch, Chicago sprawled, a metropolis of reinvention, where steel and stone birthed possibility. Let's move here, he said impulsively, grin boyish. You designed for the trib I coach at DePaul. New start. My heart soared, then plummeted. New York or bust. The offer's deadline loomed like Lake Michigan's horizon. That night, over deep dish at Lou Malnati's, tension simmered beneath banter. He noticed, probing gently. Spill, Matt. You're a million miles away. I exhaled, laying out the offer. Prestige pay, a solo flight to the city that broke me once. His fork stilled, face paling. And us? What about this? The gesture encompassed the table, the city, the fragile us. I don't know, I admitted, shame hot in my cheeks. It's a chance to prove I'm more than the guy who runs back to safety. Safety. His voice rose, drawing glances from the next booth, blue-collar locals nursing beers. Is that what you think I am? A safe harbor for when the big leagues call. Hurt etched his features, the betrayal flipping. Not his fear, but my flight. We left in strained silence, the pie cooling untouched. Back home, words erupted like the storm's echo. Accusations of abandonment, defenses of ambition. You've always chased the next thing, he hurled, echoing Alex's ghost. Portland, San Fran, now this? Am I just another detour? And you've hidden behind normalcy. I shot back, tears scalding. Emily was your shield, coaching your closet. How do I know this isn't the same? He recoiled as if slapped, the room shrinking to battlefield. Silence fell, heavy as regret, until he whispered, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not ready. The door clicked shut behind him, a soft thunder. I collapsed, sobs racking, the humanistic dream fracturing into American isolation. Love's promise, undone by fear's pull. Hours later, a knock. Nicholas, drenched from the drizzle, eyes red-rimmed. I walked the lake, thought about us. You're not a detour, Matt. You're the destination. We clung, apologies dissolving into embraces, but the seed of doubt had sprouted thorns. The reconciliation was fragile as autumn leaves crunching underfoot the next morning, when we ventured to the Lincoln Park Zoo. His olive branch, a nod to simpler joys. Elephants lumbered in enclosures mimicking savannas, oblivious to the chill nipping our heels, while Nicholas narrated facts with exaggerated flair, trying to coax laughter from the rift. Did you know apes share 98% of our DNA? Explains why we're both stubborn asses. His grin was tentative, but it pierced the fog, reminding me why I'd fallen. Not perfection, but persistence. We fed giraffes from the platform, their tongues curling like questions around pellets, and in that absurd intimacy, hands brushed, lingered. I'm sorry, he said, voice low amid the chatter of school groups, for making you feel like second place. Truth is, you're first always have been. The rest? Noise. I nodded, swallowing the lump of last night's barbs, the betrayal's aftertaste bitter as zoo coffee. Chicago's parks offered sanctuary that day, wandering the conservatory's glass-domed jungles, humidity wrapping us in tropical amnesia, then picnicking on the meadow with sandwiches from a corner deli. He unpacked insecurities like contraband. How his father's mill closure in '08 had instilled a terror of instability, pushing him toward safe paths. Sports, straight lines, scripted masculinity. Coming out feels like jumping without a net, he confessed, apple core tossed to squirrels. But losing you? That's the real freefall. My own confessions flowed freer. The New York offer as armor against failure. A bid to outrun Alex's shadow. My family's indifference. They sent a card last week. Proud of you, son. No return address. Like love's a postcard, not a promise. We lay back on the blanket, clouds scudding like unformed thoughts, hands clasped in silent pact. Humanistic threads wove tighter. Two men, scarred by empire's expectations, finding grace in mutual witness. Evening brought elevation. A sunset cruise on the Odyssey. The city aglow in copper and crimson as we sipped Chardonnay on deck. Nicholas pointed out landmarks. The Sears Willis Tower's lithe spire, the neo-Gothic Tribune Tower where Hemingway once filed copy. America's a story we keep rewriting, he mused, arm around me against the spray. Ours doesn't have to end in ellipsis. Emboldened, I texted the firm. Need more time. Personal matters. Stall achieved, but the undercurrent pulled. Ambition versus anchor. The eternal American tug of war. That night, rain lashed anew, confining us to board games pilfered from the Airbnb's shelf. Monopoly, of all ironies, with Nicholas as the cutthroat banker, me the railroad baron. Laughter bridged gaps, but as thunder grumbled distant, he set the board aside. Remember Millersburg? That diner talk. His eyes searched mine, vulnerability raw. I meant it, no more phases. But if you go to New York, I'll understand. Support you, even if it guts me. The offer hung like the storm, temptation wrapped in terror. We migrated to bed, bodies seeking solace, spooned under quilts, his breath steady on my nape, hands tracing spines like Braille secrets. Sleep came fitful, dreams of forked roads and falling leaves. Dawn broke with decisions weight. I rose early, laptop open to portfolio revisions. When Nicholas emerged, towel draped from the shower, hair damp curls. Talked to Dad last night, he said, casual as coffee pour. Told him about us. Not the details, just, there's someone special. My heart stuttered. His phone lay silent, no backlash roar. What did he say? I ventured. Mug paused mid-sip. Grunted. Then, as long as he treats you right, son. Progress, right? His smile was wry, triumphant. The first crack in paternal armor. A betrayal of old scripts. Elation surged, but so did clarity. New York could wait, we couldn't. I closed the laptop, declining the offer. Seattle's home with you. His embrace crushed, joyous, but doubt flickered in his eyes. You sure? Don't regret. Never. The kiss sealed it, fervent yet chaste, a vow etched in morning light. We celebrated with brunch at a Ukrainian spot in Ukrainian village, Pirga steaming, borscht ruby as resolve. Then a drive south to Hyde Park, Obama's old haunt, where Hope's murals adorned walls like benedictions. Nicholas geeked over the Roby house's prairie lines, sketching right-inspired doodles on my arm with a borrowed pen. Build our life like this, he dreamed aloud. Sturdy, open to the light. But fate, that capricious editor, interjected via voicemail. Emily, urgent. Nick's ex-team parent called me. Heard rumors, your trip. The friend. They're digging. Protect him. Paranoia spiked. Small-town tendrils reached far. The betrayal not personal but systemic. The closet's long shadow in red state bleed. Nicholas's phone buzzed next. His assistant coach, voicemail laced with concern. Boss, parents meeting tomorrow. Whispers about you too. Need damage control? The color drained from his face, fork clattering. Shit! He breathed, world contracting. It's out. Or close. Panic clawed mine, his, ours. We sped back, the city blurring to threat. At the Airbnb he paced, dialing allies while I Googled legal aid for queer educators, heart hammering. They can't fire me without cause, he insisted, but fear undercut steel. Tenure be damned. Funding dried up, kids caught in crossfire. Night fell siege-like. Rain sheeting windows as we huddled on the couch, his head in my lap. What if I lose it all? He whispered, the jock's bravado stripped to bone. Then we rebuild. I soothed, fingers in his hair. You're more than a whistle. And those kids, they'll remember the coach who taught courage, not conformity. His laugh was watery, poetic, Matt. Always were. But as sleep claimed him, I lay awake, staring at water-streaked glass, the storm mirroring turmoil. Love's romance curdled to drama, climax cresting. Betrayal not of hearts, but of a world unready for ours. Morning brought the call. School board emergency session. Nicholas dressed in armor, khakis, team polo, kissed me fierce. Wait here, or come. Your call. I went. Solidarity over solitude. The boardroom in Tacoma waited, a transcontinental gauntlet, but Chicago's interlude had forged us steel. The flight back to Seattle was a pressure cooker, turbulence mirroring the maelstrom in our laps. Nicholas white-knuckling the armrest, me scrolling crisis PR articles on my phone. We'd cut Chicago short, Emily's warning a siren pulling us to confrontation. Midway over the Rockies, he broke silence. If they push, I'll quit. Start over. With you. His hand claimed mine, steady despite the jolt, a lifeline across chasm. Touchdown brought Tacoma's gray drizzle, a homecoming hug from familiarity and dread. The assistant coach, Tyler, a lanky ex-player with a man bun and moral compass, met us curbside, bear hug for Nicholas, wary nod for me. It's not a witch hunt, he assured over drive-through burritos en route to the school. Just a few loudmouths. The team's got your back. Kids drew up a petition last week after that freshman story. The high school loomed. Brick fortress off the Puyallup River. Football field scarred from Friday lights. Boardroom. Fluorescent sterility. 8 suits around a laminate table. Coffee urn hissing like judgment. Nicholas entered tall, me at his flank. Uninvited, but unchallenged. My presence a statement in chinos and quiet resolve. Principal Hargrove, a silver fox with a handshake like Vice, opened. Nick, rumors from your trip. Parents concerned about influence on the boys. The word dripped euphemism, betrayal's velvet glove. America's polite poison. Cloaking prejudice in propriety. Nicholas leaned forward, voice even. No rumors, Jim. Facts. I'm gay. Have been deep down for years. And yeah, Matt's my partner. We've kept it professional, always will. But if that's a problem, say it plain. Murmurs rippled. A board member's Bible-thumping uncle-type flushing puce. This program's built on values, family, tradition. What about the sponsors? The boosters? I interjected, calm as Lake Michigan's depth. Values like integrity? Like teaching kids to own their truth? Nick's done that for every player, straight or not. Firing him now? That's the real scandal. Tyler chimed in, petition unfurling. 200 signatures, scrawled with pleas. Coach Nick saved my season. Don't punish love. The room shifted, Hargrove's gaze softening. Let's table this. Survey the parents proper. Nick, take leave paid. Sort your head. Relief crashed like waves on Alki Beach, but it was temporary tide. Outside, rain sluiced parking lot, Nicholas sagging against the Jeep. That was something. Laughter bubbled, hysterical, then tears. Catharsis after the cliff edge. We drove to my apartment, the one with Puget Sound views through salt-streaked windows, unpacking bags amid takeout Thai. Leave of absence, he mused. Pad Thai twirled on chopsticks. Time to job hunt? Or road trip sequel? The idea ignited. Not escape, but exploration. America's queer underbelly. From Seattle's Capitol Hill to Portland's Pride Scars. But first, reckonings. He called his dad that night. Speakerphone ritual. Pop, it's Nick. And Matt's here. The gruff voice warmed incrementally. Questions probing but not prying. Proud, son. Just be happy. No thunderclaps, just quiet acceptance. A betrayal of bigotry, redeemed in blood ties. My own call to Philly, Mom's line, trembled fingers. Mom, Nicholas and I. We're together. Pause, eternal as Voyager's signal. Oh, honey, about time you found your person. Tears flowed bidirectional, the family's frost thawing in transatlantic static. Humanistic miracle. Forgiveness as free fall's net. Weeks blurred to rhythm. Nicholas guest coaching clinics. Me freelancing with renewed fire. Evenings tangled on the couch to the L-word reruns. Dissecting arcs with wine-fueled wisdom. The board reconvened, vote unanimous, reinstatement with ally training mandated. A win small but seismic. Climax crested not in fury, but fusion. A rainy November night. Power out from windstorm. Candles guttering on the kitchen table. We cooked by flashlight. Stir-fry chaotic, laughter louder. Then danced slow to battery radio's faint jazz. Bodies swaying in shadow play. This is it, he whispered, cheek to mine. No more accidents. Just us, deliberate. The kiss deepened, world narrowing to heartbeat's drum. But restraint held. Romance's poetry in pauses, not consummation. We were men remade. Dramatic in defiance, emotional in embrace, romantic in resolve. Spring brought verdancy. His return to the field, rainbow laces and cleats drawing cheers. My exhibit at a local gallery, canvases of hopperesque motels under thunder, titled Confessions in Stormlight. Emily visited, bridge mended over mimosas. No jealousy, just gratitude for the push. Betrayal's ghosts lingered, societal, personal, but we'd exorcised enough for peace. America, flawed colossus, offered no utopias, only arenas for the fight. Ours, a quiet victory, humanistic in its humility. Two lives intertwined, hope reclaimed from loss's jaws. Years on, we'd tell the story at dinner parties. The motel, the thunder, the words that unlocked. Stuck in one room, Nicholas would quip, arm around me, best damn plot twist of my life. And I'd smile, knowing. In the end, love's the only structure that endures.